it's the ability to connect with your partner if you have a partner as well. And if you don't have a partner, you can just, help yourself.
Use the wand. Plug in. So welcome back to another episode. We have here Stacy McPherson, doula, an amazing mama to 7 children. And in our last episode, she was sharing some amazing tips to help us understand how to have a beautiful birthing experience. And one of the things we started out the episode chatting about was an orgasmic birth. And I just wanted to know if we could start with that and then go through a few other things labor related as to how to handle different situations. Like if we end up having to have an episiotomy or a C-section. So Stacy, welcome back. Thank you so much for being here, and tell us what you meant by orgasmic birth.
Okay, so happy to be here. Thank you so much. I'm so happy. Okay, so the term orgasmic birth is a term that it embraces basically a warmth and a welcomeness to the birthing experience. So it not only does it include having an orgasm while you're dilated and pushing, which I will address, but it also encompasses just this warmth and welcoming of birth experiences and something to be desired. Like, I want to give birth again. That's actually was my experience. I was so excited to get pregnant, so excited. And I did experience some infertility issues as well. So even though I had 7, there were times where I went 4 years where I wanted to have the next baby and I couldn't have the baby. So 4 years of that intense desire and longing and wanting to have a baby and feeling kind of frustrated, right? Because that's how we feel. And so I do have some experience. I'm not immune to that. I do know what that.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. We had no idea. And that is a good example of assumptions gone wrong. We're like 7 children fertile.
You can just look at your husband and get pregnant. So, right? Like that's
for sharing.
Assumption. That's amazing.
Thank you.
Jeez, Mary, Tanya. Oh, thank you. Sorry about that.
Looking forward to birth, wanting to have birth, loving the experience. I have myself on video saying, "This is the best birth ever."
Oh my gosh. That would be a great video. You should share that with us.
So beautiful.
Yes, it was so there really is a way to just embrace the experience and have it be joyful and wonderful and a party. It's just amazing what the experience can be like. And so that's kind of the broader version of what orgasmic birth means to me. And then as for orgasms, yes, you can orgasm while you're in labor. So the orgasm is one of the best ways to have a very quick labor. Like it contracts the area you want to contract. Like it's so powerful. So my husband and I, so walking is very important and orgasms are very important. So we would walk where there was a place where we could go nearby and be close to the hospital. So we would get either an Airbnb when Airbnbs were available, or we had public restrooms that were, one restroom for both sexes. So we would go in and have our orgasms, and it brings about the most pleasurable sensations, obviously, right? But also it's so healthy for the body. It's like bringing in joy and welcoming and these beautiful contractions of the vagina that can bring about more, a stronger contraction of the uterus. And I don't know the technical medical behind it. I just know my own experience. So I just want to caveat that.
So, I think the caveat there is that it's the ability to connect with your partner if you have a partner as well. And if you don't have a partner, you can just, help yourself.
Use the wand. Plug in.
And I even have a term that's called nipple stim, and it means really the nipples, right? So because it can, exactly.
Yeah. How beautiful is that? I mean, it's such a great idea too. And it would kind of divert some of the intensity, especially if you're in transition, if that's something that your body and mind wants, obviously.
Now, of course, I'm the Miss Sensitive gal. So I'm also going to say, okay, then there are women who have never experienced an orgasm in their lives. So they're like, oh my gosh, now I can't have a great childbirth unless I have an orgasm. So we need to dispel that one as well. So can you address that, Stacy?
Yes. So yes, you can have an amazing birth. I didn't have an orgasmic birth until the 7th one.
But you had the experience of an orgasmic like birth. It was just that the 7th birth, you had an orgasm while birthing, right? Is that what you're saying?
Okay.
Yes. So I had
beautiful
orgasms through labor with all the births, and even in the hospital. Like you pull that sheet across, you put a sign. I brought a sign. I brought a sign to every one of my births that said, please knock. I made my staff knock. If they came in without knocking, I would inform them, excuse me, you were supposed to knock. So we would do our own private things.
Nice. I love it. That's wonderful.
It can be a party, guys.
Totally.
Okay. Oh my gosh.
Such a different, non-medicalized, pure, granola. I'm going to use the word. I think it's great though, because really it's natural. And if it helps and then you're enjoying it and it helps. For me, my births, actually, I was so proud of them after going through, struggling to get pregnant and then having those births to kind of just release almost all that trauma and miscarriages and inability to get pregnant. I was like, I'm a new woman. It just helped so much to have a pleasurable experience. But what if it doesn't go that way? Then what?
Yes. And be open to that because, okay. So for example, I'll tell a story. I encourage my clients as a doula to have the most natural childbirth possible, just because then you have less complications later on. Any intervention that's brought on can have a complication. So it's your
higher chance of complication, not meaning that you will have it.
Right. Thank you for clarifying that. So just encouraging that, but then to realize that at any crossroads, number one, and keep this in your mind, the health of the baby. The health of the baby is number one. Like, we really want to bring this baby here healthy and safe. And so to have that be your overall, like, even when the doctor says, we want to do this, then say, number one is the health of the baby. But let's talk about this as an option going forward, different interventions. And so just being prepared mentally, I think, is just the answer that I would say, is just to learn to read about what are the complications that could happen, what are the decisions you're going to be making, be informed. Then there are so many good books out there that you can read to be informed. So I guess that would be my answer.
You know what? We would love to hear what your top 3 books are on this topic, right? So, I mean, if I don't want you to be on the spot because this wasn't preempted. So you could just share with us and then we can put it in our show notes at myfertility.com. Okay.
Yeah, let's do that.
Awesome. So where were we going to go from here? So, when you're saying all this, I was just curious. So you had one birth completely on your own, and then were all the other ones at the hospital?
So I had one birth that was very medicalized in a hospital that 90% of the women get epidurals. So they didn't know what to do with someone who didn't want an epidural. That was my first. And then my 2nd through 6th were in hospitals with midwives.
Okay, with midwives. Okay.
And then my 7th was a home birth.
Right. Wow. Amazing.
On a water birth too.
Okay. So different. Everything was so different.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where the orgasm was, in the water.
Yes.
Which also speaks to the fact that even from birth to birth, as one human, one woman, can be so variable, right? So even if you have this perfect birth for one, you might have these expectations that it'll repeat, it'll be so amazing. It might not be. So it's always like surrender to whatever kind of, may happen, and being aware of what may happen. And it's preventing, complications that might happen with baby, but also with mom, because mom, it's better to, have the support in case there was any needs with mom, if anything were to happen. And then there are cases where, labor can be very exhausting, and a little epidural can help, right? It can help a woman fall asleep and wake up, and you can always opt for like less epidural. So when you're ready to push, you can feel it. And then there's not the complications of having to have an episiotomy if you're having less epidural. And because sometimes it can be a bit of a marathon.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, for sure. So I did have the marathon. And
you did?
Yeah, I totally did. And, it never went according to plan. I did have photocopies made of my birth plan and none of it was there. Like, oh, okay,
you're like, might as well just
going to go off-roading. That's okay. I'll just go with it. Right.
Yeah.
And in the end, exactly as you said, it's like the health of the baby. And, basically it was just, well, you know what, guys, you just need to go back to the last episode because I explained extensively what happened. And that's not even the full story. The 2 days of being in labor was really not in labor. It was induced because of the fear of like my water, because water having been broken when it shouldn't have really been, right? So then they were just intervening because of that. And because of that, like I had this IV there for 2 days. So you imagine I was blown up like the Michelin Man. Like that's why when I said I was vomiting, it was just purely water and my legs were so swollen. And they don't do that as much now because they know it's like, oh, that's just too much fluid. I was like full on fluid. Like I was like a little person became this big balloon person, like no joke.
Yeah.
Right? So as I was pushing after the push, I'd be like, and then like water.
Oh, you poor
There's so much water. Anyway, so this is not an exercise to cause trauma.
No. It's important to know though. I mean, the IV is just in case of a C-section, right? So they give you, and they don't want you eating. So it makes sense you have an IV, but I think,
if they're so long, right?
Yeah.
So it's just blown up. It was crazy.
Yeah. And it can also overinflate the weight of the baby. And then if you're breastfeeding, there's that fear that baby has lost, weight because their birth weight was not actually an accurate weight. So I'd love to have that discussion in a future podcast, all about breastfeeding. All
of that. Yeah.
And
yes,
you can do that too, right? I mean, you've done it 7 times.
Yes. I breastfed for 2 years almost with every baby. So,
oh my gosh.
Oh, wow.
Okay,
so you spent so that's wow.
15 years of your life. Wow. Look at, we're both like,
I thought, because I did 2.5 years with each of mine because I couldn't let go of my first. And so it's like 5 years. So, but 14 years. Wow. It was a big wow. Because it's such a beautiful experience to breastfeed. And I always thought that it would be so sad in my future to not be able to ever breastfeed again. But then looking back, it's also very giving of your time. And, so it's nice to not be breastfeeding.
Yes.
Because I would imagine you feel that way after 14 years. Yeah.
Wow.
Thank you so much, Stacy. Do you have any other input on a medical birth and kind of surrendering to that to help women not to feel I guess shame or guilt around their birthing experience kind of going a different way than they expected?
Well, one of the ways to think about it is you're just grateful for that medical birth because these options are available to us when we need them, right? Like when we need them, they are like the best gift anyone could give us in that moment. So think of it that way. It's a beautiful gift that they're giving you, your health, the health of your baby. It could be the salvation of your baby. So don't think of it as I failed or this went wrong. No, think this intervention was needed and it happened. And I am so grateful.
That's beautiful. We love that. And then how about in terms of, again, we don't want to have any tears, but we end up having tears. So what's the conversation there and how would you help someone heal?
So there are a lot of measures you can do to not tear. So there are massage using oil. The midwives have like 100 different things they can do, right? That they're actually helping you to not tear. It's the way that you're pushing, they're guiding you to push and then rest and to not push if you're not contracting. So look into the different ways. If you don't have a midwife, look into the different ways you can help prepare to not tear. And then this is the way it was explained to me. And I haven't, maybe you guys could correct me, but the way it was explained to me is if you take a sheet and you try to tear that sheet without any kind of compromise in the sheet, it will be very difficult to tear. But if you snip a tiny snip in it and pull it, it will just rip. And so my experience, you want to avoid the scissor cut that the doctors will do unless there's there's a reason to have the baby born quickly because something's wrong with the baby, correct?
Right.
Right. And
Makes
some
sense.
doctors will do what they call a routine episiotomy because it makes it faster and easier for them. So just make sure your doctor doesn't do that.
That's a great tip. Thank you so much. And I see that I know Dr. Tanya needs to see a patient, so we're going to wrap this up real fast. But we're going to definitely have you back on. You have so many great insights. I've learned so much from you. And yeah, it's been a pleasure. And I hope that you as an audience will have learned as much as we have. And maybe you can reach out to us and ask us what you would like to hear, what your concerns are. And again, in the show notes, we'll add in how you can contact Stacy.
I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for inviting me. It's such a joy.
Thank you for your wisdom, Stacy.
Thank you.